Hello, I've already introduced you to the characters that are going to be part of this campaign, and I'm just going to jump right into what had happened, or how my players got into the campaign. It starts with Marcus Aurelius. He's having a dream where he's just falling out of the sky. He sees that he's surrounded by clouds, and that the sun is shining somewhere, and the air and the wind is just brushing by him, and he's not hearing anything, just the wind howling in his ears, and he's falling and falling and falling, and he sees that he's going to yeah to fall right onto the ocean. He's emerging from the clouds and sees a tiny little boat swimming on an ocean, and he sees that he's falling straight down on it, and he knows that he cannot survive this fall, and he in that moment he just prays to his god that hopefully he could help him, and that so he would survive this fall. And as this boat comes nearer and nearer, he suddenly feels as if he was shaken, and he awakes and finds himself on this very boat that he had seen from the sky, and he's shocked, and just his heart is just pounding really really hard because he's so nervous from the dream he had. And on this boat with him are Kendo, Farin, and Nilin, and they are all approaching a coast. It's very foggy, and they cannot see very far, and the clouds are hanging very deep, and it looks like it's going to rain shortly. But all of these four people, they have been friends for quite some time, and they are approaching a coast, and they have talked about what's going to happen when they finally arrive there, but they do not know what's going to be expected from them, and they are all at level 1, and thus they have only a very very little amount of money, and they start approaching the coast. It's a little village named Tubaru. They come to the pier, and there's this huge guy. He's not very muscular, but rather tall, and he's standing there in his complete plate armor, and they are approaching the pier, getting off their boat, and he directly stops them and says, "You have to pay a tax to get into Tobago, and I'm only letting you pass if you're going to pay." And he wants 1 gold coin from each one of them, and they would have had the money, but they are quite greedy, one could say, and they do not want to give out their money as easily, and they start to convince him and start threatening him because they feel that this is not quite right, that he just takes money from them because they're now approaching. And they've come to the conclusion that it is illegal, and thus they keep pressing and pressing, and finally the guard gives in and lets them pass without them needing to pay. So they are now into Tobago, and they do not know where to go, and logically, what's the first place you visit when you do not know where to go? It's easy, you go into the tavern, or the pub, or whatever you want to call it. And there's this group of mercenaries. They are huge guys, and it's a group of 5 or 6 people, and they have this huge plate armor, and they're very muscular. They have large battle axes and broadswords and whatnot. They have scars all over their face, and they look very very frightening. and the one that appears to be their leader has no hair on his head. It looks as if he had shaven it all off, and has the fur of a bear above his shoulders, and he talks to his group fairly loud about a mission they had to complete, and that he does not care what his other group members thinks. They are going to go there because he's the leader, and he is going to get the main part of whatever money they can make out of the adventure that's lying before them. And since our group was able to listen to that, they are quite interested, because there seems to be a big reward left for them if they could be able to get there before these Bear Brothers, as they had called them. Well, the Bear Brothers are leaving the tavern, and our group are just following them. And Nilin, the adventurer, the war horse, or whatever you will call her, she's just she's just approaching this very huge guy and tapping him on the shoulder and says, "Well, where are you going?" And he just looks at her in very almost disgusted, and says that it's none of her business, and that he's not talking to a girl. And he then looks at Marcus Aurelius and says, or asks him why he does not keep his girl on a leash, so that she does not annoy the other people. And this is it for Nilin. She's now in one could say she hates them instantly, and they leave. The Bear Brothers leave and leave the group standing there, but our group decides to follow them, track them down, and to see where they're going. They eventually make it, and the Bear Brothers are heading for the mountains that are southwards from Tobago, and they are actually able to track them down, and they come in front of this after several days and several encounters in the mountains. They come to this huge, one could almost say, structure, and there's a small bridge above this very deep canyon, and it's guarded by these two stone towers, and then there's this big place in front of a richly carved and engraved mountainside, where there's a big door leading inside the mountain itself, and there are several fires burning, and it's very impressive. So our group is just standing there, right on the very beginning of this place that's in front of this structure, and at that moment the Bear Brothers are coming out of it, running with giant sacks of loot above their backs, and they are running, and the last ones of these 6 people are coming screaming out of this mountain, and their leader, which is running in front of them, he's not screaming at all, he's rather smiling or grinning. And then there's a huge explosion, and the whole mountain begins to rumble, and this engraved structure starts to crumble and just crushes one of them. And after all has been said, and it's starting to get calm again, there are 5 of these Bear Brothers left, and they have these giant sacks of loot on them. Well, what's going to happen afterwards, I'm going to tell you in the next video. I hope you enjoyed what you heard so far, and that you enjoyed this video up until this point, and well, I get you hooked, hopefully.